Good morning and welcome to The Point. It is Tuesday, March 16th, 2021. Thank you to those of you joining us on the GBN Grenada Broadcasting Network's Facebook page, the Grenada Broadcasting Network's YouTube channel, the website www.gbn.gd, GBN TV channel 7, 11 and 20. Good morning to the listeners of Classic 105.5, 105.9 and the viewers on Party Grenada and Go to Fet Facebook pages and Party Grenada's website. Our virtual guest this morning is Public Relations Officer of the National Democratic Congress, Ms. Claudette Joseph. Good morning, Ms. Joseph.
Good morning to you, Blossom, and how are you doing?
I'm great. How art thou?
I am doing great as well.
Lovely.
And a special morning to all of your viewers and listeners on GBN, wherever they may be. It's good to be here again, representing the National Democratic Congress.
Good to have you.
Yes.
All right. Before we get into some NDC concerns, let's first look at one of the most recent things that has happened so far in our history. On Saturday, March 13th, we celebrated, in addition to the 42nd anniversary of the revolution, it was also the third anniversary of the current administration since it was elected into office during the 2018 general elections. So let's first reflect on the past 3 years and your thoughts, the NDC's thoughts on how the governance of the country has been over the past 3 years.
Thank you, Blossom. But I could sum it up. I could sum up the performance over the last 3 years in a simple sentence to say, look and listen to the pulse and feelings of the people of Grenada at this time. When the people are engaged, when our people are engaged on the streets, on the ground, there is a lot of discontent, disheartenment, and disappointment in some areas. In relation to the government's performance, there is also coming through a lot of regret on the part of the people for having given the NNP a blank slate, which is enabling them to treat the people of Grenada and the issues dear to us with condescension, dismissiveness, and quite frankly, scant regard. I mean, I can point to a number of issues. And what we have is a constant and continuous display of lack of regard for people, their interests, their feelings, and their needs. So that we have a high level of poverty and growing destitution in the country. People have to be asking for assistance from various quarters, assistance for food, assistance for money, assistance for medical care for their families. All of these things point to rather poor performance on the part of government. We had, for example, in the first 2 years, 2019, 2020, a boast of, 18, 19, and 20, a boast of a revenue surplus. And then we are faced in 2020 and continuing in 2021 with a crisis brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic. And the reaction of our government is one that exposed that the boast of a surplus over the previous years was a plain lie. Because we had a promise made in April 2020 with the onset of the pandemic of relief. A package was rolled out of $20 million. And mind you, Blossom, that was among the lowest in the entire OECS, where our government was boasting prior that we had the best performing economy in the OECS. But yet, we announced the smallest or among the smallest stimulus package. And even so, those who were promised relief did not receive the relief. So that it exposed the lie that there is, sorry, my phone ringing and distracting me. Yes.
No problem.
I think some of my people, I didn't get to tell them that I'll be on. So that, yes, it exposed the lie that we had a surplus. This is a time when the surplus should be rolled out to bring relief to the people of Grenada. So we know otherwise. Then the other major thing is the failure between 2018 and 2020, before the pandemic came on, to roll out the national health insurance that was promised. The big promises, none of them have been fulfilled. So the national insurance, health insurance rather, NHI, that was promised, that has not been rolled out. That's dead in the water. We hear nothing about the NHI now. Of course, there was a promise of oil and gas and a lot of money. That is not forthcoming. That clearly, as we in the NDC have been saying all along, those resources are gone. They've given them away. It will take an NDC administration coming into office and making a valiant effort to recover those natural resources which this reckless administration has given away. And this is a pledge we make to the people of Grenada, that we will do all in our power to recover our patrimony in our natural oil and gas resources. So no money forthcoming, as promised in relation to the oil and gas. Then we had the promise, the bold promise made to the workers of this country to resolve the vexing issue of them not getting pension as guaranteed by our laws, our supreme law, no less. That promise was brazenly broken, so that we have, as far as we in the NDC are concerned, they have been an abject failure in these past 3 years. Broken all the promises on top of not meeting their promise to pay pension. They are now breaking a promise to the workers of this country in that they are refusing to honor a contract they signed to pay 4% increment. So this is increment earned already, and they are refusing to do so. Then we had the calamity of the case we lost against WRB, which was a case that should not have occurred because government had several opportunities to amicably resolve the stupid and senseless vendetta they pursued against WRB, with the result that we had to find over $200 million to satisfy a judgment of the court. The judgment of the court being that we should buy back the shares because of our bad behavior, because of our government's bad behavior. And to date, we know there's no money, because prior to the judgment of the court, WRB gave the government several opportunities, the last one being in 2013, to buy those shares for half of what they ended up paying for it. Imagine there was an offer for government to buy those shares for $8.47 a share, which would have added up to about $35 million EC. They proceeded to buy it for $63 million because they want to pursue this vendetta. They want to teach WRB a lesson. So they took it all the way stupidly, absolutely dotish. And I make no apology for that. Because this is what hurts our people. So they pursued this thing to the end where a judgment had to be made against, not the government, because the government represents us. So against we the people, because of two guys with overinflated egos, and have to pay $63 million, or translate that into 100,000 EC dollars, and still have the gall to be bragging that they got a good deal. That points to the utter disrespect and contempt with which they hold we the people of Grenada, because they think we're stupid. So in a nutshell, poor performance, a big F for the last 3 years.
Is there anything good that they have done over the last 3 years? Anything positive that you can pinpoint?
Right. That brings me now to the pandemic and the overall, the general handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. There were some mistakes made along the way. There were some from the beginning in terms of the availing ourselves of the training offered by WHO, making sure we had enough vaccines in the beginning. And then the second wave, if you want to call it that we had in Grenada, which was entirely the government's fault in that they didn't treat people entering our borders evenly. They didn't apply the rules to everybody. So there were some mistakes made along the way, which would take away from the general grade that we, the NDC, would give the administration. But in a general sense, given that we had fewer cases than most of the other neighboring Caribbean islands, and we only had one death compared to other Caribbean islands, I think that a reasonable job, and I'm not just giving my own opinion. We think that the treatment of the COVID-19 could have been more inclusive. For example, in the beginning, there was a meeting between our then party leader, Sister Franca Bernardine, and Prime Minister Mitchell. And at that meeting, the understanding was that the two parties would work together to deal with this issue. And it didn't play out that way, right? That was just a show in the beginning. But on that score, I would give not an A, but a passing grade. It was handled reasonably, right? Beyond that, Blossom, I will be hard pressed to find, to think of any other area in which a pass could be given. Because we have a blatant attack on our environment now, right? We have no issue. We are all for development. We support developmental projects that would bring jobs and so to Grenada. But we are entirely opposed to the callous way in which our environment has been treated with these mega projects. Entirely so. And we question whether a continued focus on tourism and these mega projects in light of the pandemic and the realities that have been brought to the fore, whether that is the focus our government should continue to pursue. We question that.
Well, you preempted me because I was going to ask if you think all the development work that has been taking place with the hotels going up left, right, and center, if that could be considered an accomplishment of the government of the past 3 years.
Well, I don't know that you would necessarily call it an accomplishment, because with some of what has been happening, you see, when the realities of the world is saying one thing, And our government continues to bury its head in the sand and insist on tourism. When we haven't been able to pursue the tourism industry or to benefit from the tourism industry over a year now, over a year since the onset of the pandemic, because we started feeling it since before we went into lockdown, right? So it's over a year now. So to my mind, or to us in the NDC, this is a time to refocus and to shift what we do and to look at how we can use the resources at our disposal, right? Mainly our people, our land, and our sea, in order for us to attain sustainable development. The tourism sector is dependent too much on external forces. We need to see what we can do internally to maintain a robust or reasonably functioning economy where our people can enjoy the basic amenities of life with relative ease, where our people wouldn't have to be going to bed worrying whether Nawasa will come and cut off the water tomorrow, or your internet service will be disconnected, because where once internet could be considered as a luxury, it is now a necessity, because our children need internet to attend school, and many of our people need the internet to attend work, because most of it is done virtually at this point. So Blossom, I think in the NDC, we don't understand why there is this stubbornness about focusing on these mega projects and tourism. Even so, if government decides, for whatever reason, that they're going to stick with tourism, we would commend in the NDC, we would recommend to the government to visit our policy document and see how the NDC proposed in that document to enhance tourism, and how we proposed to blend tourism with health and wellness, with arts, the performing arts and entertainment, and with our natural environment, how we propose to blend it into more community tourism and tourism that enhanced and complemented and worked along with our natural environment, not degrade it. So that's the issue we have. And it's happening east, west, north, and south of our island.
What sort of impact do you think the protests are having on the developers, on government, on people who have been 100% supporting these projects? Because the NDC has had a number of protests in St. David. I remember just over the weekend, today's Tuesday, so I think it was on Sunday, I saw you posted some videos of situation in St. Patrick. And with these protests the organization has been having, do you think it's having an impact or causing people to think twice, the developers and government specifically?
It is absolutely having a positive impact in that it is raising awareness to a critical issue, an issue that we in the NDC consider to be a crisis. It is causing more people to speak out. As a matter of fact, we had more people showing up to the protests last Sunday than showed up at Lassa just 2 or 3 Sundays ago. So we had an increase in attendance. By virtue of the response, we've put out some literature on the importance of preserving our natural environment, our flora and fauna, and so, which we circulated to the company St. Patrick last Sunday, and we are going to continue to circulate that information, right? People are becoming more aware, and they're understanding the importance of the issue. Blossom.
Sorry, before you go on, I wanted to talk about St. Patrick as we had the footage running. And for the people who did not see the footage or hear the audio, I should say, what was the conversation you were having with that residence, so that while we're playing the video, people can understand the context of it?
Right. So the footage I showed in that video is behind the house of a family right on Mount Craven Beach there. And, the conversation I had with that family, it really brought home in a very real way how actions, reckless action, and sometimes inaction by those we elect to take care of our affairs, we hire them as trustees to take care of affairs. When they fail in that duty, how it actually directly affects people and hurt people. Someone told me that the Prime Minister was accusing the NDC of hurting people. I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know what he's talking about. Because his track record is one that hurts people in so many different ways. He hurt us collectively as a nation, reputationally and otherwise. And now he's hurting people. Because this family, freehold owners of land, they own the land, they pay property taxes on the land. And they've lost the majority of their land. A big chunk of their land is gone. The sea has taken it. And one of the things the property owner explained to me is that, look, I'm still paying property tax on land I don't even have anymore because I'm still paying on the original square footage. I don't know if your viewers are seeing the video, but what is left, Blossom, is a narrow strip. I was even afraid to go walking on the strip because it looks so precarious. So if you notice, I stayed from a distance and filmed it. But it's just a narrow strip of land between their house and the open ocean. And the lady explained that her land went way back. When she pointed to me where her land ended, she's pointing to me in the middle of the ocean. All right? And there is a drain. There's a drain between the strip of land that remains and their house. And that, they explained to me, is what is saving their house. Because when the tide is high now and the waves come all the way up, the water goes into the drain and runs back out into the sea. But eventually, that strip of land, happening very quickly in a matter of months, the residents explained things happen in a matter of months. It's an emergency. The erosion is happening in a matter of months. When they explained to me where the land was 3 months ago to where it is now, it's crazy, Blossom. And so when that strip of land is eroded, you will have the sea merging with the drain. And it's a low drain, as you can see in the video. So eventually, their home will be washed away. This is hurting people, Mr. Prime Minister. This is what is called hurting people.
How can the NDC help these residents? What assistance can the NDC provide, if any?
The NDC at this point, interesting you would ask that question because a friend of mine called me the other day, a serious businesswoman, not sure what the political leaning is, and asked me a similar question. I mean, what can the NDC do? Mind you, this is a business person in the industry, tourism, real estate, whatnot. And that person was calling me to express concern about what is happening with these big mega projects and the fact that the government appears not to be holding the investors to comply with our laws, our physical planning laws, and to save and preserve our environment when they engage in these projects, which mind you, they cannot do. They cannot do in their countries of origin. They cannot do that in their country of origin. But back to your question. First of all, the people of Grenada have to help the NDC to help them by voting the NDC. The NDC would be most effective in helping the people of Grenada address and correct these problems if the NDC has at its disposal the apparatus of the state. For a political party in opposition, we are very limited. Our hands are tied in terms of how much we can do. We are raising awareness and we are engaging in a lot of education. We are mobilizing people to speak up and apply pressure because governments respond to public opinion and public pressure. So our role, given that we have no seats in the parliament, so we can't even hold them to account in the parliament, we are doing what we can do. We are going to be ramping up our efforts to engage other stakeholders in the society, because that's another thing we find because of the culture of fear of victimization, which is indicative or that we have a dictatorship in Grenada. We do have a dictatorship. People are literally afraid when they have nothing to be afraid of. So a lot of people, including groups that should be leading some of these issues, they are sitting back, they are falling back and asking the NDC to do some of what they should be doing. We have no difficulty with that, but what we want the people, especially stakeholders relating to the various issues, to join with the NDC, join forces with the NDC to pressure our government to act responsibly. Because you see, once government senses that the majority of the people are not with them on an issue, they respond in the way they should, as they did when holding off on building on Cameron Park. It's only people pressure this administration response to, because it is led by a statistician and all he sees is numbers. So we are doing what we can, and I guess the argument can be made we can always do more. But for example, we can't go changing the laws. We can't go forcing government to do certain things. We can alert, for example, international agencies and so, which is part of what we do. But we can't force these agencies to act because international agencies interact with governments, not with opposition parties, right? So the people have to work with us to help us and to support the NDC, support the NDC in its efforts, and support the NDC financially.
Well,
and on that note, right, let me just say on that note, if you go to www.ndcgrenada.org, you will see a blue donate button there. It's very easy to donate to the NDC these days. So we are urging you to do so, and it's completely anonymous because I know a lot of you are afraid of this dictatorship we have in Grenada. So it's completely anonymous.
So following up on your desire for the members of the population to elect the NDC into government, a question on WhatsApp is asking, do you think the NDC can make it on its own in removing the NNP from office in your present construct, or do you think you need to collaborate with organizations such as the Grenada Movement?
Well, I wouldn't name specific organizations, but our history in Grenada has shown 1976, go back to 1951, 2008. When you have to remove strongmen, and in most countries, when you have to remove strongmen, dictators, which is what we have here, it normally requires a coalition of forces. It normally requires the unity movement in St. Kitts and Nevis, Guyana in 2015, the People's Partnership in Trinidad in 2010 or thereabouts. So that is usually what it takes, which is why I made the earlier call for all forces to be joined so that we can take back our country before it's too late. And mind you, brothers and sisters, it's already almost too late. We have to take back our country because we have people who don't care. Earlier this morning, Blossom, I was looking at the last parliamentary sitting, because sometimes based on the time of day at work, and so you don't get to see these things live. So I try to go back and look at those things. And I'm looking at the MP for St. Patrick West, Mr. Boson. Mr. Boson's demeanor was one of condescension and contempt, accompanied by a little sarcastic chuckle when he speaks of the people who are expressing concern over the environmental degradation happening in his very constituency. His constituents are suffering. If you show the second video I posted, you will see where I'm speaking to residents, his constituents, and they are showing me open seas where houses with veranda and front yard and backyard and then the beach with enough space to play football. And they said all of that, you're watching there, they pointed way out in the sea for me. I mean, it was amazing to say there were 5 houses here. And the lady had an 8-foot veranda followed by a 20-foot house and a front yard and a pit latrine in the back and a backyard and then the beach where we used to play football without being in the yard. And Mr. Boson is there sarcastically chuckling as though everybody who speaks of this issue are talking stupidness. That was his tone. And then he goes on to say, and I'm quoting him now, there are times when you can't wait on the luxury of studies. Something had to be done. He was there again last week in the parliament admitting that government undertook this breakwater project without an environmental impact assessment. That is basic standard operating procedure. So they took a decision that they're not going to do what is the norm, right? Because they couldn't deal with the luxury. He called it a luxury of a study. Mr. Boson, it's not a luxury to do these studies. It's not a luxury, it's a requirement. It's a necessity, not a luxury. There's a difference between luxury, that's wants, and needs. The environmental impact assessment was a need so that you don't damage the rest of the coastline, which is what has happened. And he laughs at it. And then in the next breath, he calls everybody who is commenting now, armchair environmentalists. Weren't you all armchair environmentalists when you took on your own, ignored whatever experts, didn't even seek expert advice, and did the breakwater project without the EIA? Weren't you playing armchair environmentalists when you did that? That's what you were doing. So don't be so rude and condescending to come now, and the Prime Minister did it too. They're both rude and dismissive of the people. And our people must reject. That is what happens when they give people a blank check. They feel they could treat you how they want. Look, somebody's falling through a bridge in the Prime Minister's constituency last night. Somebody's reporting that they're falling through a bridge, the same bridge where his old mother traverses, and wouldn't fix it. You got to vote him out, Northwest. That's what you got to do. You got to vote him out.
On that note, let's take a break, Ms. Joseph, and when we come back, we're going to get some of the questions already coming in on the social media. This is To The Point with NDC's PRO, Claudette Joseph. We'll be right back.
We understand it can be hard getting from the bus terminal to the Kirani James Athletic Stadium just to get your fresh fruits and veggies. But guess what? Your troubles are over. Enjoy a free bus shuttle from the bus terminal to the temporary market at the Kirani James Stadium
every Friday and Saturday until the end of March.
Let us buy local, eat local, and support our local market vendors.
Fresh from victories in the T20 and ODI series, the West Indies, under the captaincy of Craig Brathwaite, now turn their attention to the two-match test series. It's international cricket, West Indies versus Sri Lanka. First test, March 21st to the 25th, and the second, March 29th to April 2nd. It's cricket, lovely cricket, live on Classic 105.5 and 105.9. The test series, West Indies versus Sri Lanka, is sponsored by Grenada Electricity Services Limited, Spice Isle Imaging Center, and Republic Bank.
Man Skulls, we see how this cake, she come down with this cake since morning, and she had the cake on the plate, the man hungry, she wouldn't say, well, look, piece of cake. Tell you, man, get a piece of cake now. You see, give me a piece.
You see, I'm waiting for Doc. Doc missing. Well, King, that piece of cake here is for you. You could have that cake. I talk about you. Yeah.
So I will take
No. That piece of cake is not for you. This little piece of cake here is for you.
Yeah, but you don't need cake, so what?
Yeah, but that piece of cake here is for Doc. You see, no matter what I try, no matter what I do, Doc only starting to go and sell in market. You understand? I beauty brain, I poke up my lip, I get dressed up, is what I don't do, it just do walking. So I decided I get up early this morning. Before I brush my teeth, before I bathe, I make sure and I take care of that piece of cake. You know what I mean? I take care of that piece. You know what I mean? Okay, I take care of that piece of cake. So that piece of cake here is for Doc. Unless any one of you want to spend the rest of your life with me, don't touch that cake.
Scarlett, she go hold him. That dead.
Hold what? Listen.
She go hold him.
Listen.
You don't know holding him.
That cake here is for Doc. That's all I'm saying. That cake here is for Doc and it's for Doc alone. Don't touch that piece of cake. Touch it at your own risk.
Folks, join us this Friday on We Culture, and you're going to hear everything about polling, shaman, akadamatuku, mandundun, and we probably might force Risi to tell us what she do with that cake. So be sure to join us this Friday. Skulls, he dead.
You don't dead.
Leave him like dead.
You don't dead. The things I have in store for Doc, Doc coming alive. Then what?
This Friday, We Culture. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Welcome back to The Point, speaking with Public Relations Officer of the National Democratic Congress, Claudette Joseph. Before we go to our viewers and listeners, I just wanted to follow up on the issue of the environmental issues that you just pointed out before the break. Are there any, let's call them recommendations that the NDC can make on how we can rectify this problem?
Yes, indeed, Blossom. And the NDC always states its position, always expresses what it will do while in office, but conveniently, the NNP and its followers, they keep saying, we don't offer anything. We are the only political party in the Caribbean who has put out a policy document in writing only, right? And only in Grenada. So we always have on offer. First of all, the NDC, as we showed when we were in office in between 2008 and 2012 or 2013, we take the environment and environmental issues seriously. We lead from the front when it comes to those matters. And it showed, based on the level of respect that we got when we led the Oasis movement, right? The small island developing states. Our Prime Minister led that. We were integral in forming IRENA, right? That's the International Renewable Energy Agency, so much so that we got a seat on the inaugural board of IRENA, and Grenada secured a seat on IRENA board for CARICOM. So we take environmental issues very seriously. We don't just go out there and talk the right talk to get money from the Green Climate Fund and that kind of thing. That's what this government does. But at home, they are disaster. In relation specifically to the Mount Rodney matter, We urge on this government and an NDC administration will ensure that the residents who were displaced, who were freehold owners of the properties, first of all, you adjust their property tax notices so they do not pay taxes for land they no longer own. Secondly, you relocate them at your cost, meaning you give them freehold interest in land and a house, a replacement house. If they had a concrete house, you build back a concrete house on land that you convey to them to the specific size and comforts and amenities that they enjoy. If they had a wooden house, you do the same. That's how you compensate them. This is what we in the NDC will do without them having to ask. In fact, we wouldn't get to this point because we wouldn't do a breakwater project that damages the coastline. We don't do it like that. Urgently, we encourage the government to engage experts. There are experts right here on the ground that can give advice on what can be done in the interim to alleviate the problem that is happening or to reduce the effects. And then you engage serious experts, including our own local people, to find a permanent solution. And you don't play armchair environmentalists, Mr. Bolson and the rest of you, by doing what you want and saying you don't have the luxury of that, because you did it because elections were close and you wanted to score some points and get some votes up there. So you rush and do it without the environmental impact assessment. And yes, so these are the recommendations we make. La suggest, please backpedal. Please backpedal and bring back the pond where our fishes and so went to reproduce. All right? And our birds, it's a sanctuary. We have another disaster at the end of Grana's Beach, yeah? But that's another conversation, Blossom.
Let's go to the phone lines for our callers. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Auntie Blossom.
Good morning, Ms. Jacob. Go right ahead.
How are you? Good morning to my dear sister on the side of you there.
How are you, Ms. Jacob? You good?
Ask my sister Claudette a question. And Sister Claudette, do please give me the answer completely. You could remember when we got the 4th seat and all you got, the NDC get the 11th seat. You could remember what you do, my wonderful brother in St. David. That is my brother Dennis Lett. Can you remember what you did, what you all NDC did? All you NDC take out the senior citizen water, and when my brother Dennis Lett go, all you send him to take out Miss Jacob water. And he said, Miss Jacob is a senior citizen, so I would not take out her water. You remember what you all did him? Give me the answer, please, darling, my dear heart, and I'll have a blessed day.
Thank you, Ms. Jacob.
Yes, darling. Well, I can't speak about things I do not know because you do know as well. I know you know very well because you follow the politics. That I joined the NDC in 2017. That was 6 years after, or more, after the period you're probably talking about this. So I can't give an answer except this one. But what I do know is that the NDC, Mr. Lett died in office. He was a minister when he passed away, from my recollection. And he remained a loving member of the NDC family up to this day. Only a few weeks ago, we had a memorial service in his memory. So I don't think we did him anything negative, as you are apparently alluding to.
A Facebook question. The NDC needs to address the issue at the Parliamentary Elections Office. The office represents the core for a democracy, and should they continue to ignore it, they can kiss their dreams of coming back into government goodbye. issues at the PEO?
Well, there are some ongoing issues there, including we do not know what became of this system that was introduced. I try to remember the name of it, but it is escaping me now. But the system that was introduced in 2011 with the assistance of the OAS and a Canadian company. Apparently, that system was dismantled. We do not know what really happened after Judy Benoit was fired for trying to do her job properly. And what has happened, what we have in the electoral office is a lot of secrecy, because there is a company, trying to get the name of the company now, trying to remember. Actually, it's not a company. The supervisor of elections says it's a company, but it's not a company. It's a business that was set up by one guy who apparently the IT aspects of the electoral office is subcontracted to, which is crazy. And our background check suggests that this one person who is behind this business does not have the wherewithal to do the level of IT work required. The difficulty with the NDC taking action, including legal action, is that everything is a secret, everything is hidden. And if you take legal action, you got to go to the court with evidence. So it's a big secret, which is, I mean, it's difficult to uncover what's happening, but we know the system is no longer in use. I mean, we are not clear on what has replaced it. Then we have situations where sometimes the electoral offices are closed when they should be open. In fact, I have had occasion to write the supervisor of election in relation to the office in the town of St. George, where people are going to get their ID cards renewed and people are going to get registered, and the place was closed. The reports I have now is that that has been improved somewhat. But up until last week, in one of the other constituencies, the system was down. I don't want to call the name because I can't remember which one now. I believe it's one of the constituencies in St. Patrick. The system was down so that when people went to get registered, they couldn't. So yes, there are issues that we need to address, but one of the ways we will have to seriously address these issues of the electoral office is by commencing action in the court. And the way we are going to be able to do that is by you, the people out there, you, the people who have the experiences, coming to us and sharing those experiences with us and expressing a willingness to go on the record, to file affidavits in the court, to say what your experience. That's how you have to help us. Guys, it's not something that the NDC, who is the NDC? The NDC is all of us. So it's not something the few of us who are in the forefront can do without your help. So when you have these experiences, you need to come to us so that we can take your experience now, put it into acceptable and admissible evidence form and take it to the court for resolution. Outside of that, it's just speculation and talk, and the court doesn't make decisions based on speculative talk. Hard evidence is what we need. So you got to be brave. Keith Mitchell can't do you nothing. Don't be afraid.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Blossom. How are you today?
I'm good.
Blossom, if two person playing draft and some people standing around, they see all the mistake that the other one make, and when they get there, they make the same mistake. Blossom, NDC, when they was in power, they was putting teeth in the road, cliff, in some of the areas. I see it myself. And they paying the staff, they didn't pay the staff on time, and none of the teachers and nobody else did complaining. Now they complain everything. I'm not against nobody. I'm not an NEC and NNP, but I am a Grenadian. And they complain, the teachers and them, all problem they have, hear nothing about it. But now that when the NNP come up there, you're hearing all the problems that they have. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much, caller. Joseph?
Order, listen to me. The reason why I didn't hear the teachers complain is that the NDC had an agreement with the teachers, and the NDC honored that agreement. They got their money, right? Secondly, let me try now to put to rest this propaganda nonsense that the NNP pushes, and so many people regurgitate that the NDC on numerous occasions were not able to pay salaries. First of all, that's a lie. It happened on 2 occasions. And I am sorry and I regret that some of my former colleagues in the NDC who are in government didn't tell the people the truth in relation to when these salaries were late. And the operatives in certain places who were sabotaging the efforts of the government. Think about it. On one occasion, the salary was due on a Friday. It was paid late. What was it late? Monday. It was paid on Monday. If government didn't have it Friday evening, you think they would have had it Monday morning? Think about it. So it happened on 2 occasions. The salaries were paid very shortly thereafter. All the nasty lies about you had to wait long and whatnot. That's not true. Compare that with the contract workers. The contract workers that government is now replacing the public service with. They are replacing the public service with contract workers who they can use as puppets. They pay them late and everybody afraid. They'll just whisper to you. They'll just whisper to you, I work so long and I ain't get paid, Right? But they're on contract, so they're afraid to say they're getting their salaries late. It's not that it's not happening. So stop the propaganda. It's not good for the country. Stop the lies. And there are some roads right now in Grenada. I wish we could get some tip in there because they have a road. I bust my tire the other day. That's all I have to say about that.
A question on Facebook: does the NDC have any plans to demonstrate in Carriacou to bring awareness to the issues there, including the moving of the Hillsborough port to Harvey Vale?
I can't say at the moment that we have a specific protest plan in Carriacou, but what our party leader has indicated publicly, and which reflects our position internally, is that we will keep raising awareness to all of these issues, and peaceful protest is one means by which we will do so.
We have quickly run out of time, Ms. Joseph, but I know you wanted to mention... Yes, you understand? I know you wanted to mention... I know you wanted to speak about the recent hike in court fees. It has been could it be about a month now since that?
No, from 1st of March.
1st of March, so 16 days, so 2 weeks. So 2 weeks later, what's the response you've been getting? Quickly, and then we can always go into it next time you come back.
Horrible blossom. This government who says it loves the poor, they have just driven the poor from the seat of justice, to put it simply. People who do not have money can no longer expect to be treated equally before the courts because the fees are so high that they simply will not be able to afford it. You have to pay the court these fees and pay a lawyer. These poor people wouldn't be able to do both. And for those of us lawyers, and some of us do it a lot, who help people who cannot afford lawyers in the civil courts, we will not be able to help you completely again. You will have to come up with something to help cover the court fees. While we would be able to assist you still with actually doing the case, we won't be able to just take your matter and do it and ask you nothing else, which is what we did in the past, because we covered all the court fees. And so lawyers will not be able to afford to do that anymore. It's as simple as that. The fees are just too high. You will have to now shorten the arguments you're making for a poor client because you have to pay a filing fee per page, right? If it's a rich client with the same case, you could go to town and file all your arguments and all your submissions. You can't do that for the poor man anymore. This is a government who says they love the poor. They do not love you. They do not care about you. That's a fact. I'm satisfied about that.
Ms. Joseph, thank you so much for stopping by. Of course, next time you come, you will continue to delve into these issues. I know there are still questions I haven't
I'd like to talk more on the court fees at some point to explain to people, the details. Yes. So
we'll
thank you very much.
Soon. No problem. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day and we'll keep in touch.
You too. And thank you to all of your viewers. Enjoy your day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Right. Public Relations Officer of the National Democratic Congress, Claudette Joseph. We thank her so much for stopping by. I know there are still some questions on the social media that I haven't gotten to as yet, but Ms. Joseph is a regular guest here, so next time she's here, of course, we'll get back to those questions. Thank you so much for tuning in to The Point. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and I'll be back tomorrow morning, God willing. Bye-bye, everybody.